On this episode of the Construction Insiders podcast, we're going to sit down with two of our leading educational construction experts and talk about how today's economic landscape is impacting educational construction throughout the state of Texas. This is the Construction Insiders podcast. I'm Jessica Busch, bringing you the newest trends and strategies in construction, essential to anyone in the industry. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are sitting down to have another talk about construction and education today. So let's start our Construction Insiders podcast by introducing Vaughn Gallagher and Steve Risser. Thank you both for joining me today. This will be an interesting conversation.
Thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
Of course. I'm glad I could pull you out of a meeting. I know, again, I seem to be pulling our guests. Anytime I am in town or around, I pull you guys out and make you come sit down with me. So I appreciate your time. For those of you listening that don't know Vaughn or Steve, they're from Gallagher, one of our most recent acquisitions at the Cumming Group. They focus on education and municipal projects throughout Texas. So today, if you guys are up for it, I wanted to talk about education and how Texas, as the second most populated state in the country, how the growth of this state is impacting the educational sector and as it relates to construction. So if you guys are game, we can jump right into it.
Sounds great. Sure.
All right. So the first burning question, before the first burning question, let's set the stage here. With economic growth and the patterns we're seeing in Texas, right? Particularly in these kind of fast-growing cities, what is driving the education sector expansion that we're seeing? And what are some of those specific factors?
So we have more people moving to Texas.
Okay.
And the more people that move to Texas, then the more need for educational facilities that there are. So towns that were small towns as recent as 5 years ago are now booming with growth, with houses that need more educational facilities. So that's one of the biggest parts of the growth in Texas and the boom with the educational facilities.
Yeah, and I would say there's industry growth as well. It's creating more jobs. And so all of a sudden those big cities are now becoming, there's actually in some of those big cities, they're having a decline in enrollment and going out to those outskirts of town that Vaughn was saying, because industry's growing, jobs are growing, but then businesses are starting to grow outside of those bigger cities as well. So you have
in
more
the suburban
people.
markets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As well as people, since COVID, don't have to, it's not the scenario where you live outside, then drive to the city to work every day. We know people work from home. People can work from home part-time. People were trying to get out of the heavily populated areas because of those things. Mm-hmm. And just the growth of people coming to Texas is really the biggest driving factor.
Mm-hmm. And housing affordability. It's hard to afford a house in the inner city now. It's you have to go on the outskirts. You have to go 20 miles out for the first time home buyers and younger parents to come in.
We hear a lot, being from California, we hear on the news a lot about the different policies, right? So, and how maybe difficult California can be, how wonderful Texas can be. Are these pro-development policies and the resources that we hear about that are so prevalent in Texas, is that influencing construction trends in education, or how is that kind of impacting things?
Absolutely. Texas is one of the most business-friendly states in the country. In fact, it has more Fortune 500 companies than any other state. It has over 53 Fortune 500 companies. Okay. And so because of the tax incentives, the more affordable housing, relatively speaking, I believe San Antonio is the third most affordable housing market in the state. So you have, in addition, property taxes, and relatively speaking, property just property values are lower. So that incentivizes a lot of businesses to come. And so just what we talked about earlier, when we have more businesses come, now you have more jobs, and then you have more growth. So
families.
And your families and
towing behind them.
It's all interconnected. And what we also are seeing is there is organic growth. So people are coming to Texas and they're staying in Texas. Or if they leave, if they go off, let's say the younger kids, if they go off to college, they're coming back to Texas and starting their careers.
Instead of going off
in other areas. Yes, ma'am.
And those things are driving headquarters to move as well, right? So when they move here, there's a area north of Dallas that had several headquarters move in, and there's stories where an entire street of new houses would be just moved in by the executives of that company, and they just like basically moved from California to Texas together. So that's taking place as well.
Interesting. Well, I guess there's the space to do it, right? So,
and that's the other driver is the land availability. Right. There is what it's been said that 20% of the population, 80% of the population is in 20% of the land of Texas. So we've got a whole 80% more of land that people don't live in. So there is expandability for sure.
Right. So this growth, and you're talking about kind of executives just dropping in next to each other as their headquarters are moving in. How is that growth with K-12 educations? Let's talk about them specifically. How are those distributed across Texas? And are there any unique challenges or opportunities for these construction projects we see popping up? We're talking smaller school districts, different counties. Where are we? What is that looking like right now?
So it's throughout the state. We've got the growth in the metro areas. It'll be driven by semiconductor plants going in. We've got a big area that's doing that. We've also got a vast amount of growth in west, the more desolate areas, and they're by the energy growth, wind power, solar power, those things that are fueling the economy for those to grow as well. The challenges that it creates is there's such a vast amount of construction in the state of Texas. Then the battle for resources, labor, those things is driving the cost and making projects take longer to construct. So we're having to adjust those things heavily to meet those deadlines.
We're also seeing a shortage in design firms. There's shortage of personnel and engineering. Everybody's shorthanded because of the demand, and so it's taken longer for buildings to get designed too.
Absolutely.
And so you mentioned kind of some more of these areas that are getting out there a little bit from the cities that we're used to hearing about. Is there an impact to these smaller school districts? What are we seeing in terms of, are they able to get the money, get the bonds passed to develop these schools if they're all of a sudden becoming more popular? How is that landscape, and what is that looking like?
The great thing about Texas and as the economy relates to the K-12 education is they're able to capitalize on property values to build buildings. And so because of what Vaughn was speaking to with wind, solar, oil, gas, crypto mines, data centers that are in rural communities, those create taxable dollars. And so they actually are able to build facilities that they would otherwise never have a chance of building. So you have rural districts. We're working with one district that's got 790 students total, K through 12, in the middle of West Texas, in the middle of nowhere. And we rebuilt an entire high school for them. And we just did a field house and new stadium and, all kinds of things as a result of the property values of the wind farm. So we help the districts capitalize on what their taxable values are so that they can build the buildings for their kids.
So something really that just wouldn't be possible before this
if the wind farm wouldn't be there, there's no way they would be able to benefit from it. There's no way that they could build the school because of it. Same way with solar farms.
The needs have been there for years and years, but the funds weren't available. So when the energy source shows up, then the property values go up, and now they can address those issues that they should have done 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, or even more. That
Yeah.
particular high school, I think, was like in the 1910s. I mean, it was crazy. So that is because of the business-friendly environment that Texas provides. It provides opportunities for kids that they would not have been able to have.
It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to be able to help them develop those opportunities and to be able to do those things for those communities and to affect future generations with those things. So
it's a correlation that many people outside of what you guys do wouldn't think of first as a a benefit of a large headquarters moving in or another power source moving in, of what it's actually going to do for the children, for the community. It's just really interesting.
That's what one of the exciting things about the Coming Group acquisition is because of the sectors that they serve: semiconductor, as Vaughn said, healthcare, data centers, manufacturing, hospitality. All of those are impacted by each other. So let's say, for example, if the Coming Group is working on a data center, well, that data center creates taxable value for the K-12 school district. And then we're able to create, a lot of times we're building career technology centers.
And I was going to ask you about
higher education.
Yeah.
And then now that's also associated potentially with healthcare. And as we have more growth and more population growth, and you have more workforce work like oil field and energy, you need healthcare. So it's all cyclical, and it's exciting to be able to be a part of that potentially.
And I know this was off camera before we started, before I got you guys to sit down, but we had talked about, you have the K-12, right? But with all these new facilities and the movement of people and these trade schools, higher education, everyone's also feeling the need. We've been hearing in, kind of the education sector news about dual credit programs. How is that impacting specialized facilities? Are you seeing that in Texas? Has that hit your area yet? What are you guys seeing kind of in that world?
Definitely. Okay. The districts are trying to adjust to the workplace. They're trying to adjust that everyone isn't designed to go to a four-year school.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunities with trade schools and specialized fields are abundant. Again, back to the semiconductor.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a junior college or a community college area that we're working with right now that's solely based on that taxable value that then they're helping with the workforce to fuel that facility. So we're seeing that a lot, and that's fueling a lot of the new facilities that we're building for the community college areas.
And there's a shortage of those skilled laborers, welders, electricians, HVAC, licensed, we're trying to help promote those careers. And like Vaughn said, that's not always a college degree, but it's a certification. And so we do work hand in hand with university or school districts, work hand in hand with university systems and local community colleges to be able to provide that certification through even the high school program and the dual credit program.
And so those dual credit, kind of dual certification, and so you're working on facilities right now.
Absolutely.
That is helping to facilitate that.
Absolutely. We just completed a welding academy for a small rural district in West Texas that was designed and built around a certification program from a manufacturer in a neighboring city. And so those high school graduates can get a dual credit, college is, credit, but at the same time, they can come out of there certified and guaranteed a job after having gone through that. So there are two things. The dual credit does help them. Obviously, it helps the students minimize their potential college career. If you get, my daughter's happens to be one of those where she's got enough dual credit to be a sophomore. She's still going to go 4 or 5 years.
unfortunately for you, right?
That's right. That's not going to affect that, but it does help a lot of students, shrink or shorten their college career. So it puts them, it does put them ahead of academically. It puts them, ahead of where their other peers are.
And it's really part of it's self-serving. We need the electricians, we need the plumbers, we need the tradespeople. We're desperately in need of them. So the more that can be trained up in the facilities we build, then the more facilities we can build with them, because without them, we're nothing.
And so these trends you're talking about, are you seeing them, and kind of what are they generally, if we're talking, kind of what you'd call traditional blue collar institutions, the 4-year colleges, trade schools like you've mentioned? Are there specifics that you're seeing, or is it all kind of heading in the same direction in terms of the facilities and overlap?
I think the districts are doing a great job of it being in abundance. A lot of districts have CTE facilities, career and technology, but we're seeing more specialized. We just built a big facility for the Forney School District we do a lot of work for, and they've got a floral design program. They've got an auto mechanic shop. They've got all these entrepreneurial trades that are that come through that facility. So when those kids get out of school, they already have a trade, but more than that, they have a skill from an entrepreneurial level to start their own business, or to know how to deal with customers, or how to evolve quicker in the business world. So
interesting. So they're learning to do it at school like we should be.
Yes,
they're
hands-on.
They are employee. I mean, they really are employees of the businesses. It's the facilities talking about is it's somewhat like a mall and a convention center, and so these students are part of it.
Right. There will be an actual automotive shop in the facility that actually works on people's cars that's owned by a business owner. And that business owner...
So real life me could drive my car in.
When I go to a meeting there, I usually get my oil changed.
Okay.
And then by those students that work there are paid employees, and they work there, and it's a self-sustaining business.
While getting school credit.
Yes. Wow. Absolutely. And they have coffee shops and restaurants and all types of things. Daycare. And then this facility is filled with people who come there for those other events. So it's this self-sustaining facility that they get hands-on credit. It's phenomenal.
So that seems like a major shift when we're talking about facilities and development in the educational sector.
Absolutely. And a great one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's something that we desperately need.
Interesting. So changing directions a little bit, student housing, athletic facilities, another kind of headline that we continue to see pop up in this when we're talking about this sector. How is that impacting the higher education side of things with construction? And is it, we hear a lot about in Texas, but I'm assuming it's happening in other states as well. And just kind of what are you seeing from that student housing athletic side of things?
There is a shortage of student housing because of the population growth. And in Texas, there's a lot of great universities as well in the surrounding states. And we've seen it not just in Texas, but in the SEC for sure, because the SEC is growing. And so there are housing shortages in most of the higher ed Texas university systems. As far as specializing, what we have recognized too is the need for specialized designers and constructors to do those residence halls. They're not just your typical dorm anymore. There's themes, there's experiences. And so we've realized that there are some certainly different experiential, experiences with them that need to haven't been what they have been in the past.
They're trying to stay competitive.
It's
Yes,
exactly
totally
competitive. With all these other options we're discussing, it's even more competitive to get those students to come to their campus. So they're trying to be more. If their dorms are better than others, then it may make a decision.
Right. Well, when you're
absolutely
18 years old making a decision, the cooler dorm
absolutely
may or may not win out sometimes.
For sure, you bet.
And is that the same at play kind of with athletic facilities? What are you seeing major trend-wise there? Any big shifts?
Absolutely. And there again, it's the experience that they have. It's the livability, conveniences that those athletic residential facilities offer, those are all coming into play because they're the same way they're competing for the same athletes as well.
And because it is ramped up in the K-12 world so much with the level of facilities, indoor facilities, the stadiums, the universities have to be competitive just so that a kid that they want to recruit there to be. A lot of times they'll go to, a D2 college and they're like, my high school was better than this. So it's really evolved everything as the NIL deals and everything else evolved with that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And so
Mm-hmm.
The state systems and requirements for smaller schools, have you seen anything kind of play out with their projects or renovations regarding their facilities to try to, how are they doing it to be remaining competitive?
I wouldn't say necessarily the state requirements, but the federal government gives the Texas higher education system, like last year, they gave them over $650 million for research.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much the residential type of things, but it's the funding they're allowed to use for research. So we are seeing an increase in research type of facilities in the higher ed. That goes along with the career readiness. For example, with the Texas State Technical College, they're doing a massive welding and technical academy that's helping, and that all stems from research as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a necessary requirement, it is the funding that they're able to get to use for those things.
And that was I was going to ask another question about that partnership
Mm-hmm.
between these schools and different organizations. How do you see that playing out? And is it just the new wave of construction? Or
we're working with a community college now that partners with the local hospital.
Okay.
And they're getting the students are getting their certified nursing assistant CNA certification through them so that they can automatically go and work for that hospital. And so we're currently we're the program we're the construction manager for the health sciences building that's allowing them to go get their certification and then ultimately go to work for them. So there is definitely collaboration between the companies and or entities and what the community colleges are offering. If that makes sense. I mean, it's if they're able, what the community and actually the high school we built the high school that has graduate students that go to the community college to get certified to go into that same healthcare in the same county, which happens to be in the same county as the semiconductor. So we are truly living that experience of being able to see a pre-K get a career in the same county, and we're able to be a part of that from the very beginning to the end. I mean, no kidding.
Beginning of their education to the very end.
No kidding. I mean,
that's quite a case study.
And it all stems back to what we talked about earlier. Everyone's more competitive for the workforce that's not there. So the sooner you can get them engaged, then the sooner they can be available and the sooner that they're not in another industry when we all need those same people.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is.
That's something that you could easily see starting to be replicated throughout the states, other part of the states, throughout Texas and definitely other states as well. Because the need is just, the need is there.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
But to have
Colorado,
a case study where
Florida.
you guys have done it from the pre-K to their, higher education.
I think what we're seeing is it's more, I don't know if I'd say it's specialized, but it's more geared towards the needs of the geographic area. I think that's something that we haven't seen for years. But dual credit's been around. You could get your college credit, you get your, welding degree, different things. But now you'll see where the medical facility needs those needs, so they specifically focus on that. So they're tied to the local high school and the community college, as Steve's saying, to do those things. So it's more targeted. The welding program you mentioned, I mean, that's a direct
need of the local community.
Direct.
And
there's also with this same community college, we're doing a police academy.
Okay.
For it as part of their their educational program. So then that ties into the municipal work. So it really is it's fun and exciting to see how it can evolve and how we can actually be a part of all of that.
So before I let you guys go, if you were to kind of generalize lessons learned, looking at the innovations, looking at kind of the new wave of this educational construction, what are your big takeaways? What do other counties, other parts of the state, and frankly, probably other states start really paying attention to if they're not already?
I think the earlier you can get students involved, the better for everyone. Even if they identify it as, hey, I want to be in welding, but they decide they don't want to do that, then it helps their career path sooner to take the direction of what it will be. Maybe they're not sure what it is, but they've eliminated things along the way. I think they should don't hesitate to reach out there and try those programs, because it's going to help a kid find their way one way or another, which is going to help our entire community as a whole as we move along. So be innovative.
I think one of the most important things that we've learned over the years is understanding how whether it be a school, a higher education, a healthcare, any kind of community or public entity, and private for that matter, is how the funding works, is understand holistically the entire program, because everybody wants to build a new building. Everybody knows that they want to do cool things. They know they have to compete. But as a partner, and that's how we view ourselves as the partner with our clients, is we need to also understand how they're going to best utilize their money and what phases. Okay, this is the end goal. How do we get there? And
backtrack.
Can we get it? Can we get it all the money at one time? Are we able to get it that way, or do we have to do it in phases? And that's part of all of our master planning. So having the vision, like Vaughn was saying, and also understanding how it's going to work financially allows us to help them more than they really understand that we can help them.
So if it's a bond, how are we going to get there? The preparation that needs to go into that, the community backing that needs to go into that, all of those come way before
it starts.
Yes.
Rather than just, hey, they're getting ready to do something. We need to be a part of it. Let's help them develop the plan.
Right. And we could have a whole nother podcast segment on that, because I know you and I have talked about that extensively, and how kind of in the weeds you guys get with that to make sure it is successful from the very beginning before all these bright and shiny buildings show up. So, well, awesome. Thank you. I will let you get back to where you are needed. But until then, we'll call it a day. So thank you.
Jessica.
Till next time.
Much.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Construction Insiders podcast. You can continue the conversation by leaving a comment, asking a question, or participating in our poll. You can also visit us at coming-group.com for more great resources from the most trusted team in the built environment. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes.